A very good morning to you. Welcome to the last day of the month. From tomorrow, we hit December. How time flies, but the economic circumstances, they make us all ponder, don't they? My name is Benjamin Akakpo. I do this together with Bernice, Abu-Baidoo, Lansah. And from us to you, welcome aboard the best show on morning television. We're glad to serve you. Now, coming up this morning, we're going to be delivering the news shortly. But right after that, we'll be hosting political scientist and head of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana, Dr. Kwame Asante. And from there, we get into our big stories and we'll be settling for. Let me ask you, how do you feel driving long distances and having to contend with illegal and indiscriminate speed ramps? Not only will it be frustrating, but also motorists are put in harm's way. So, what's the way forward in dealing with these illegal speed ramps popping up practically everywhere, posing a threat to road users? We will hear from stakeholders on that all-important matter. But this one probably affects you. Some 5.7 million SIM cards risk deactivation if it does not complete, or they do not complete the SIM registration processes following the directive from the Ministry of Communications. Now, what does this mean for the mobile industry? And that includes those using Wi-Fi's, MiFi's, and the rest. What will be the ramifications of this exercise? Again, we'll be hosting major players in the industry to dilate on those matters, break it down for you, and let you know where exactly you stand in the midst of all this. But later, we ask, what do you make? And I'm sure you followed it, of the Ashanti Regional Director of the National Service Scheme insulting the nurse at the Manhyia Hospital. It stoked quite a furore on social media, but are the nurses, midwives justified in calling for his head? Join us with your thoughts on these issues and more as we discuss them on the show. The hashtag is AMShow. In the course of the show, share your thoughts with us. And when we activate the phone lines, be sure to give us a call because you matter. On that note, let's settle for the news up next. Well, let's go back to that story on the debate of the 2023 budget statement delivered to Parliament last Thursday, which kicked off in a fierce manner with members of Parliament from both sides of the House making forceful presentations. Now, even before the first argument could be made, the minority, which described the budget as a hopeless one, attempted to arrest the debate, insisting Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta should be present in the House. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante has the rest of the story in this report.
Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, who has traveled to Germany on official visit, was required, according to the NDC MPs.
So you can't just come and move the motion and you are not there. Remember, we are in a critical stage as a country. And members have researched. Over the weekend, we were all in. You took us there. You gave us technical insight and guidance. Members are prepared to make their input. And Mr. Speaker, it is only appropriate that the Finance Minister must be here. Mr. Speaker, if he's not ready to do the job, he must let the House know.
The matter raised by the Deputy Whip on the minority side is very grave, Mr. Speaker. This attitude is becoming too much. Mr. Speaker, the practice where ministers of finance present budget and fail to collect input should not be entertained. It is becoming too much from this finance minister. You don't just present a budget and travel abroad or go and sit in your office. Mr. Speaker, we cannot accept this. You should come before we start the debate.
The Constitution does not say that anywhere.
The Speaker, however, ruled that he had been made aware of the minister's travel. The minority then kickstarted their debate, describing government economic policies as hopeless and one which will worsen the economic situation of Ghanaians. Ranking member on the Finance Committee, Dr. Kisela Toforsen, described the 23 taxes introduced in the budget as killer taxes, insisting there is nothing inspirational about the budget presented by the minister.
Until yesterday, the Black Stars of Ghana has given some temporal hope to a very hopeless situation. Mr. Speaker, the mood in this House could tell you how hopeless the nation has become. Mr. Speaker, if you go out there, the mood on the street of Ghana will tell you that there's hopelessness. There's a massive cost of living crisis as we find ourselves. Mr. Speaker, it will surprise you to know that marriages are collapsing because of this government. Marriages are collapsing because cost of living is becoming so high. Mr. Speaker, that is where we found ourselves. Mr. Speaker, businesses are collapsing. Our debt is currently unsustainable. Mr. Speaker, this budget introduced 23 tax measures. 23 tax measures, Mr. Speaker.
But Deputy Finance Minister Bernice fought back.
The 2023 budget has been formed or prepared in some certain context. And the context is that we are faced with both difficult global and domestic challenges. We also have an ongoing IMF negotiations, and also we have debt operations. That is why there is a need to raise some form of taxes to support our fiscal consolidation. And I'm therefore urging my colleagues on the other side to support government with these current revenue measures before the House, as listed in paragraphs 215 to 222, like I mentioned earlier.
With the debate now underway, leadership of the House, both the minority and majority leaders, will be expected to conclude the debate on Thursday before a decision will be taken on whether or not the budget statement, as has been presented to the House by embattled Finance Minister Kenneth Oriata last week Thursday, will be approved or not. Remember, last year the minority purported to have disapproved the budget until that decision was overturned. We'll see how that pans out now. But this debate has been a little bit unceremonious, and you've heard the minority there saying that the majority MPs have boycotted the debate because a number of them were not in the chamber when the debate started. Reporting for JoyNews, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
Well, from Parliament, let's talk about the Greater Accra region's foremost used clothing hub, which has yet again been ravaged by fire. After an 8-hour battle, personnel from the Ghana National Fire Service finally managed to overcome the raging inferno that gutted over 200 shops at Kantamanto, which is popularly known for second-hand clothing in the Central Business District of Accra. Now, JoyNews' Michael Ashali was at the scene and came through with this report.
Fire started at 4 a.m. Tuesday morning, destroying more than 200 stalls. After more than 8 hours and the efforts of 9 water tenders, the Ghana National Fire Service managed to douse the fire, but the damage had already been done. These are supposed to be raw beans, but now half-baked by the raging fire here. That happened some hours ago. It comes from a shop that belonged to Sandra and her mother. She tells me how difficult it is even trying to salvage what's left of this particular shop.
It was 55 bags. 5 bags is 1,500. Then the 50 bag one is 920 cedis. So what we had is less than 10 bags. Now it's half. We have to be collecting it as we are doing here before we get that.
A very difficult moment. So what are you going to do with what you get from here?
There's nothing you can do again. This is what they say. You can't use it for anything. They can only give it to those animals who eat beans. That's all. Nothing else. Nothing else.
Oh, please, what's your name?
My name is Sandra Humata. My mom is patient Humata.
Some more affected shop owners spoke to JoyNews.
Bebe ni nyina hye ne sack sese de aye de ne bebe akokora anya bowa ebi ye 40 ebi ye 50 sese de esra ban se onnom ye kakra na sese de kantamantofo enyina eja hia to ye papa anya sam ketwa lo na yakwaji ji o me yakwaji lo an ye de ya adwuma nyoma ni nyina na hye no ye be de nya sika kochia lo ni sika ma wom
ni nyina hye ni nyina hye ye hu ne ye sika susu ni wo Yaya mobo enche bia na ye ma baby school na some between school fees ye be ye den enti aban ye srawo wo hu ye mobo no menom ye kakra ebi say ye ni baby a ye ko.
Interior Minister Ambrose Derry led a government delegation on behalf of President Akufo-Addo to assess the situation and promised to provide more for the affected traders.
First of all, I want to commiserate with them on this unfortunate. First of all, I sent my men, fire service, the police, and not more to come and see what is happening. Right now, what I want to encourage them is that they should be cool. We would move them. A bus will come and move them to police station. First of all, to get a record of them, and the psychologist will talk to them. It's not an arrest. So, but for now, I want to encourage them that they should not be discouraged. They should cooperate with the security agencies here, and God would help us help them. My president, Nana Akufo-Addo, is outside the country, but he's called me to come here and make sure that I'm in touch with them. So they should be patient, and we'll deal with the matter. Whatever report I get, I'll send it up to the president, and we'll tell you what we'll do.
Nearly 2 years ago, some of the traders lost their investment in a similar situation when fire gutted their shops. Although they submitted their names, they are yet to be compensated. This time, they want government to make good of their promise.
If you and then brother say yeah, and then so as President said, on no way, no more here and 1 more. Can say the more dear my papa.
National PR of the Ghana National Fire Service Assistant Chief Fire Officer ACFO Timothy Osafo Efum says investigations have commenced into the incident to determine the root cause.
And we rushed and got here within 6 minutes. There were no other access to inside of the market itself. And so we had to couple a lot of hoses before we could get to the scene to fight the fire. So I think that is one. And congestion was also another. So these are the two factors that impeded smooth firefighting. As it stands now, we've not been able to come up with any cause of fire yet. So the investigators are still on the ground working hard to see what can be done.
Meanwhile, the fire service uncovered 3 of their hydrants that had been illegally sealed by residents and in some situations built upon without recourse to the law. ACFO Timothy Osafo Efum says the service is utterly gutted by the situation.
Now, I've always been saying that in firefighting, availability of adequate, constant flow of water is about 60% of the job that is done. This is an area that belongs to the city authorities. And so I am surprised why a building has been put on a fire hydrant. How can a developer develop on a hydrant?
Although many people managed to salvage some of their items from the inferno, others lost millions of Ghana cedis. They are asking government to honor its promise by extending help to them. For JoyNews, Michael Ashale.
Now, the National Communications Authority has served notice that it would not spare media houses broadcasting inappropriate content. In effect, they risk a shutdown if warnings to desist from broadcasting unsuitable content, particularly those which pose a threat to society, is not heeded. The warning comes as the NCA launched the Broadcasting Monitoring Center to regulate the content and technical specifications of television and FM broadcasting services. Mapitso Sibidi, my colleague, has more in this report.
In 2021, 2 teenagers killed a 10-year-old boy for money rituals, having been influenced by spiritualists on national television. This caused a public uproar, with many asking the National Communications Authority to regulate the content on television and radio stations. Speaking at the launch of the new Broadcasting Monitoring Center, Director General Joe Anoche said the organization has established systems to effectively monitor compliance to the technical conditions of broadcast authorizations.
In 2021, there was a widespread public concern about negative repercussions of ritualist contents of television stations that entertain spiritualists, as well as advertisement which misled a large section of the public. There were calls for the regulatory institutions with oversight over electronic media, that is, the National Media Commission and the NCA, to take appropriate action to deal with these issues. As a result, the NCA and NMC signed a memorandum of cooperation on June 15, 2021 to regulate broadcast content in line with the provisions of Section 3C of the NCA Act 2008 at 769.
Deputy Information Minister Fatimatu Abubakar believes while Ghana waits for the broadcasting bill to be passed, this broadcasting monitoring centre will keep media houses on their toes to produce more appropriate content.
I believe in the short and medium term, even before we get a broadcasting act, which has been worked on over the years. This singular exercise by the National Communications Authority to commission a broadcasting monitoring center would really keep a lot of media houses, in fact, all media houses, on their toes. Just the awareness that someone is watching in itself is some sort of regulation in itself, because people are conscious of who is watching them.
Personnel of the centre are expected to monitor about 100 channels. Director of the Engineering at the NCA, Edmund Fianco, outlined some of the key components of the new Broadcasting Monitoring Centre.
To improve, we also do prompt the stations. We send emails, place telephone calls when we observe certain violations, and it helps to improve. Also, for the unauthorized stations that keep coming up, because the team at the center, one of their tasks is to run daily scans. We are also able to quickly detect when there are stations that are not authorized but are on air. There is also the enhanced consumer protection. We expect that law enforcement can be able to request for clips whenever they need it to support either investigations or prosecution as necessary.
Reporting for JoyNews from the National Communications Authority Broadcasting Monitoring Centre, I am Mapito CBD.
Now, in our next story, former President John Dramani Mahama has revealed that he has no preference for any of the aspirants who have penciled their names for the impending NDC National Executive election next month. Addressing regional and constituency executives and stalwarts of the party in Wa, John Dramani Mahama stated that he was the father of the party and had not taken sides and would work with both the victors and the vanquished after the election for the party to achieve victory in the 2024 election. Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam now reports.
John Dramani Mahama, in an interaction with the regional executives and some stalwarts of the party, averred that despite the tremendous development brought by the National Democratic Congress, which has bettered the lives of the people in 2016, the new patriotic party poo-pooed a deceived Ghanaians into believing that he was incompetent and the party voted out. The cascading effect is the untold hardship on the people.
Whatever happens in this country affects everybody. When we make a wrong choice, it affects us. Not today, but tomorrow and tomorrow next and next year and the year after. We made that wrong choice in 2016. Despite everything we did, people of Ghana were convinced that we were incompetent. And so they voted against us. And the effects of that decision in 2016 are continuing to follow us every day till now. Don't let them tell you Ukraine war and COVID and what. No, it is not Ukraine war, it's not COVID.
He admonished the constituency and regional executives to work together, stating that Ghanaians are looking up to them to salvage the country and they dare not fail them.
Who are the executives that are going to take us into the 2024 election? Ghana is looking at you. All of you sitting in this room, Ghana is looking at you. Whatever little you do is what will rescue the people of Ghana from the hardship that they're going through. So don't think that the responsibility you've taken is light. You've won, you finished jubilating. put the jubilation aside. Now it's time to work. 2024 elections, there's no Supreme Court. The work of winning the election is at the polling station. And the people of Ghana are saying that we're waiting for you. What else do we have to do? We must get our things ready on the ground. And so it's not going to be business as usual. But I want to thank you, Upper West, for the support you gave me in 2020. Your results were one of the best amongst all the regions. And this time I expect us to capture all the constituencies and increase the gap between us and MPP in the presidential debate. So it means a lot of work is going to depend on you.
Turning to the impending NDC National Executive election, he stated that he has no preferred choice among the aspirants.
I'm the father of the party, and so me, I don't have any preferences. Everybody who's fighting for a position in the party is a person who has served the party. And I leave it to you to make that choice. And when you've made that choice, we'll work with who has won, and who hasn't even won, we'll bring them on board.
On whether he will put his name up for the flag bearership of the NDC again, though he enjoys massive following from the party, decided to use the tortoise approach, delaying the big announcement.
Before the signal has been given, some people have shot their guns to start running. The race is a marathon race, and so I know marathon, when you start giddy, by the time you reach quarterway, you are panting. So some people have started running, but we'll wait till the process is over. The new executives are in place, they give the guidelines, they open nominations, and then we'll see who picks those nomination forms.
Whatever the outcome, he assured the supporters that his support for the party will always be legendary.
But I want to say, in whatever position I occupy as president, having been given the opportunity by this party to be a former president, I'm always going to be there for this party. Whether I'm the flag bearer, I'm not the flag bearer, I know that NDC is my party.
Earlier, the former president was at Dondoli to condole and commiserate with the family of a former youth organizer of the NDC, Alhaji Mumunu Mankama, who passed on days before the NDC regional executive election. Alhaji Mumunu Mankama was a man of many parts and has worked most of his entire life for the NDC and the development of the Limaire Dondolu community. Reporting for JoyNews, Rafik Salam. Wow.
In our next story, the International Union for Conservation and Nature has supported farmer groups in the Upper East and Upper West regions with farm equipment to help them improve their yields and reduce post-harvest losses. A total of 20,000 farmers will benefit from the donation, which includes a multi-purpose thresher, weighing machines, and roller planters. Correspondent Albert Sori has more.
The International Union for Conservation of Nature is working to improve food security and sustainability in the Sahel areas of Africa. The union has been working with farmers under a project called Creating Lands of Opportunity, Transforming Livelihoods Through Landscape Restoration in the Sahel. The 3-year project is funded by the Italian government through the global mechanisms of the United Nations Conventions to Combat Desertification and is being implemented in Ghana, Niger, and Burkina Faso. In Ghana, the project is located in the Upper East and Upper West regions. It is being implemented by the Savannah Agriculture Research Institute of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, Arusha, Ghana, and the Environmental Protection Agency. Idrisu Yahaya is a research scientist with the Savannah Agriculture Research Institute.
Our objective is to improve crop productivity and link farmers to markets sustainably. So as part of our project, we have developed a value chain plan with the farmers. And the farmers selected 2 value chain crops, soybean and maize. Now, to improve quality, we need to improve plant population on the field. So, thereby providing the rural planters for them to improve their planting activity due to the labor shortages in the communities. Also, we are providing skills for them to standardize their produce and tarpaulins to give them clean produce so that they can have space to dry, and during harvest, we will not harvest with stones.
Smallholder farmers in 8 communities of the Upper East and Upper West regions received farm equipment to help improve their post-harvest fortunes. The communities include Lansah and Nadema in the Bulsa South District, Yamriga and Awaradoni in the Talense District, Tarekom and Gbango in the Boko West District, all in the Upper East region. Farmer groups in each of these communities were given a weighing machine, 2 roller planters, and tarpaulins. In the Upper West region, smallholder farmers in communities such as Nanchala and Sakalu in the Sisala East municipality also received the same donations. However, the Gbango community in the Boko West district was also given a multi-purpose thresher for threshing grains. A senior research scientist with the Savannah Agriculture Research Institute, Manga Station, Dr. Julius Yirzagla, said it is hoped that the equipment donated will help the beneficiary farmers to standardize their operations.
We noticed from our interaction with you that you needed those things. You need pick sacks to store your crops, and you also need a weighing scale to make sure you standardize your weights when you are sending them to the market. That is why we procured these tools and equipment to help facilitate your work.
The farmers were excited about the donation. Some of them spoke to JoyNews.
We farm maize, soybean, granules, rice. And it's not easy for us. As a poor person, when you want to do this farm work without capital in your hand, you can't do it effectively. Because everything you have to use labor. The yield is good through the knowledge we have gained from Sahel. And today, as I stand, I say it is a very good thing they have done to our community.
I'm well convinced that it will impact positively in the lives of the dwellers or the beneficiaries of the community. The planter, for instance, will help them plant the type of crop that they want. And measuring is no longer going to be a problem because we have a scale.
Reporting for JoyNews, Albert Sori, Bolgatanga.
And on that note, we take a breather, but when we return, we're hosting Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante as he joins us for the news review. Do stay. Have you been looking for me? Here I am. And now we're going to be serving you the newspapers and everything they have to say. Let me just be sure we have Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante with us, our guest for the review, and we'll take it from there. Okay, so we do not have Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante yet. But the first thing on my mind that I just want to put out for you, Ghana, for your reflection, maybe for all of us to do some introspection. You know, sometimes people reach out to me, Messenger on Facebook, different channels, LinkedIn, and I get back to them and I'm so cordial with them. And sometimes they tell me, oh, but Charlie, we felt with everything you do and all that you would be chinchinibio. Oh, it's so humbling to know. And I don't know, because for me, I've seen the best of both sides of life. Abject poverty, wealth as well. So I find myself in the middle. I'm those kinds. You can give me kokonte and mako, I'll eat it. You can give me the continental, intercontinental, whatever. I'm cool with that. So it got me really thinking, especially on the back of the many things that have happened with leaders in our country, about that scene at the Manchia Hospital, which was recorded by the Ashanti Regional Director of the National Service Scheme. I found it rather curious, troubling, interesting, all in one. So I'm not going to put the cart before the horse and pronounce any judgment on anybody, whether it's the doctor in question or the nurse. That is a situation. Work, has all these situations. Here, we have our own situations. But I'm just saying, what would push someone in authority, that high in office, to go to an institution like this and ruffle feathers, flex muscles, show power? We seem to do that too often in this country. The least power someone gets, even an assemblyman, DCE, we've seen it. People saying that someone doesn't even look nice. You heard that DCE, or is it an MCE? He's back at post. We see so many of these, and you ask yourself, what is it that we've put into leadership in this country? But maybe we should go to the root causes. I saw someone post some time back about how even in senior high school, what we knew to be secondary school, so much preferential treatment is given to prefects, And so it gets into people's heads, and they feel when we lead, we rather must get everything, forgetting that leadership actually means service. So I ask you, you can share your thoughts with me. What do you think about the reaction of the Ashanti regional boss of the National Service Scheme? In fact, we had to edit out what we put out on radio yesterday and all of that. We had to edit out some of the language because it was very unsavory. Were there no other means of dealing with this situation from the authorities? Now, the nurses, midwives, and others are calling for his head and saying that, look, once he remains at post, within 72 hours, they will go on strike. They will embark on an industrial action. Did we have to get here? Anyway, so you share your thoughts with me via the live stream. What do you think? Was he in error? Do you think it was okay for him to do what he did? And how about the nurses who are saying, we've had enough of such balderdash. And so if this continues, if nothing is done, we'll lay down our tools. Share your thoughts with me. Anyway, let's get into the daily graphic as we await hearing from Dr. Kwame Asante. NCA tightens vigilance, commissions frequency monitoring equipment. That's something we started talking to you about in the news. Let's get better details from here. The National Communications Authority has inaugurated a National Broadcasting Monitoring Center, that is a BMC, to help measure transmission parameters of frequency modulation, that is FM, and television in the country. Already in operation at the NCA Tower in Accra, the center will also enable the NCA to secure proof of deviations for enforcement of authorization conditions and be able to adduce evidence in cases of dispute before the National Media Commission or in court. Breaches of distance limitations and station interferences will also be monitored. Now, the BMC is also to ensure that the authority meets the International Telecommunications Union radio communication requirements. The Director General of the NCA, Joe Anochi, at a ceremony to inaugurate the facility yesterday, said the center would ensure better broadcast service quality for consumers. He said, and I quote, "By late 2017, it had become apparent that we could no longer rely exclusively on periodic spectrum monitoring to verify compliance with technical conditions associated with authorizations. Neither could we fully leverage our legacy systems to efficiently manage the increased number of broadcast authorities." And that is the reason for this endeavor. Let me say a very good morning to Dr. Kwame Asante. Welcome on board, Doc.
Morning, Ben.
Good to have you. I started talking about that situation to do with the NSS boss in the Ashanti region and his outbursts, which unfortunately got recorded. If you listen to what we put out on radio yesterday, that was just the edited version, the fine version. Very distasteful language was used, and barring whatever may have happened between his daughter, the doctor, and the nurse in question, the question has been raised about whether he should have looking at his office, gone ahead to do what he did, spewed the sort of invectives he rained on this nurse. And what do you think as well about the nurses saying they're going to lay down their tools because these things happen time without number? And especially, Doc, this is a point worthy of notice. I personally have so many friends, nurses, doctors, who have left the country to see greener pastures because they say what they are earning here is a pittance, paltry sums. Now, just in the first quarter, I've not followed the statistics from them, over 3,000 nurses, Ghanaian nurses, left the country. So those who are saying, they are basically saying, we're enduring so much just to be here, paltry sums of money and all of that. And if insult is being added to injury, in 72 hours, we'll lay down our tools. Quick reflections on that.
Yeah, I think it's very unfortunate that we are in that tight rope. Why am I saying that? If you look at what transpired, a little cool head would resolve everything. All right, there was a problem with prescription of drugs and whatever, but the reaction of the father must be condemned.
Please, let me just clarify. Let me just clarify. I'm sorry I have to interject, but the bit about a wrong prescription, we've been told, actually didn't happen. It was something else. There was no wrong prescription, right? Just to clarify.
Okay. If there was nothing like that, let's shelve it. But let's look at the real issue. Did it warrant the action of the father? No. The father could have gone there if he was not happy with something, could have reported to the superiors of the nurse, and then they would take the matter up, all right, than he doing it himself in that style that we did not approve. Look, every service is very important, and that it doesn't matter where the person stands in terms of the hierarchy of the organization. We need every hand on deck to make sure that workplaces get, in business. So if you have somebody who is aggrieved by an action of an individual within a system, there is a need for us to know the system, use them, and then for the system to address our challenges. But taking the law into your own hands and then, churning out invectives and all those things doesn't help anybody. You create an environment where there is tension, where there is lack of harmony and all that. Let us remember that we need harmony in all places of work so that we can deliver. These things are not good enough. They go a long way to undermine productivity. Look at the situation that even the ordinary man who has not caused any pain to the nurse or nurses association is going to suffer as a result of somebody's, outburst and all that. That's unfortunate. It amounts to allowing people to atone for the sins of others. What are the sins of the Ghanaian public who are assessing the health needs of the facilities all over this country? And they are going to suffer this type of problem because somebody has crossed the line in that respect. I believe that as public office holders, we must be measured and tempered when we look at what issues that confront us. It doesn't matter how painful it may be or annoying it may be. Let us use the process. I believe that the national serviceman should have, respected the channels of communication within the public service, where if there is any grievance, you pass it through appropriate quarters, and your concern will be addressed. Than you going on that, ballistic, using that ballistic approach. It doesn't help anybody, and it undermines the authority of your own office, and then it affects the beauty of governance that we have in this country. It must be condemned. And then I also want to urge nurses and all medical staff that they also must be able to handle such situations very well. It doesn't matter the provocation. Once you also know that there are rules of the game, you follow the rules, and then we address these things once and for all.
Well, just to top up on that issue, I don't know why. I just find it so curious what this man did. He also went ballistic on not just insulting the lady, but also talking about people who studied general arts in school. And in fact, yesterday, general arts was trending on social media. Well, some of us read general arts. In fact, in my time, based on the scores we got in our institutions that we attended, they were offering us science to go and read it, but that was not what we wanted. So it's interesting that he denigrates those in the general arts and all of that. But, well, maybe we don't qualify in his books.
That brings him, that is very unfortunate on this part, because no course is superior than the other. It is your duty as a student or somebody who has gone through a program to make the best use of it. What is he talking about? Is he saying that people who have studied us, like people like my good self and others in this country, we are nothing in this country, or we don't matter? That is a sorry story. We expect something more and better from him as a public, as a representative of the government of this country. And then getting to this level is very, very unfortunate. He must come clean and come and apologize profusely and then go home and sin no more.
To be fair to him, he has issued an apology on Facebook, but some have said that apology on Facebook is an apology of an apology. But we'll leave the authorities to deal with it. Whatever actions the NSS will take, whatever actions the nurses will take, we just pray that peace prevails in the end. And we also pray that this doctor and this nurse will find a way of coming together and working in the interest of the ordinary Ghanaian in our health. But very quickly, the Daily Graphic says, NCA tightens vigilance, commissions frequency monitoring equipment. They have set up a broadcasting monitoring center to help measure transmission parameters of frequency modulation and television in the country so that entities don't overstretch their bandwidth. And it says breaches of distance limitations and station interferences will also be monitored. And this is to meet the International Telecommunications Union radio communication requirements. Your quick take on that?
I think I support this effort by NCA. Want to make sure that they enforce compliance and make sure that people adhere to the rules of the game. Oftentimes, we have seen some disturbing pictures on our screens, some content that are unhealthy for public consumption, and it creates all manner of problems for us. So the challenge over the years is how to deal with this. What are the monitoring mechanisms that you are going to put in place to address them? But from what the gentleman is saying, I think there is good news. There is light at the end of the tunnel. We want to be sure that our media space is free of things that are not necessary, are not important for the development of the people and then this country. So I support the call. They must tighten the news around all those things and then make sure that whoever crosses the line, you are sanctioned. And that also sends a message to everybody that it's not always the case that when media people cross the line, you see people coming in to plead for them and all that. Once we do that, we undermine the very institutions we are building. And we all come back one day to come and condemn the very act that we supported once upon a time. We must make sure that the rules of the game are tight and that we are ready to serve the public interest.
Right. This is a bit of a deviation right before I get into two other major stories. But on page 15, there's a celebration of our very own Nathan Kwabena Edisi, popularly known as Bolare, for 25 years of impact. Well, I'll add my voice to that. There are some stalwarts here that we always celebrate, like my own big brother, Kafri Day. And so 25 years of impact, Bolare. Wherever you are, we celebrate you as well for what you've contributed. Yes, there are highs and lows, but for what you've contributed to the industry. Let's quickly go to pages 16 and 20.
Congratulations to him too for a good job done.
Right.
You always go places. Yeah.
So page 16, 2023 budget debate kicks off with disagreements, and the majority and the minority are sharply divided over the 2023 budget statement and the economic policy of the government. When the debate on the budget started yesterday, the minority said the document offered no hope to the ordinary Ghanaian, given the current economic situation in the country. But the majority said it offered the best answer to turn around the country's economic fortunes. We also know that Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta was not there. He has asked the minority to cooperate with his side in Parliament as they debate the budget. But the minority has made its stance clear that this budget is not going to offer any hope to the ordinary Ghanaian. Dr. Kasielato Forsen, for example, who is the MP for Ajumako Enyan Esiem, said the government had introduced 23 different tax measures in the 2023 budget, naming some of them as an increase in the upper limit of, let me just get to that, personal income to 35%, the introduction of additional withholding tax on gains from the realization of assets and liabilities, reversal of benchmark values, the reintroduction of road tolls, and an increase in VAT by 2.5%. That would put Ghana's VAT rate at 21%, the worst or the highest in Africa. This is just a few of them. Let me also do that story on page 20. The National Communications Authority has successfully registered 42.7 million subscriber identification module, that is SIM cards of mobile network operators in the country. They are the SIM cards that have gone through the two-stage registration process of linking them to the Ghana card and also capturing the biometric data of their owners to match the cards. Out of the number, it is estimated that about 3.8 million of the subscribers belong to the biggest mobile telecommunications company in the country, MTN Ghana. But guess what? There is that window that also says that some over 9 million, in fact, subscribers are set to lose their SIM cards by tomorrow because they have not completed the registration process. Your quick take on these two stories, Doc?
Yes, I will start with the SIM card registration. I don't know where we are now because they set a date, they change it, people appeal for the date to be extended and all that. Why are we doing this thing to ourselves? We need to have a firm date where we make sure that we go according to the time set. Once we do that, we are fine. If you want to use the SIM, I believe that, yes, you will need to go through the processes. Once you get the processes right, you are in business. That's it. Let me move on to the budget. If you look at the budget, I must say that I'm not an economist, but at least I can also read and make meaning and also have conversation with people to strengthen my knowledge in this area. If you look at the budget, it has both positive and negative. There's no doubt that some of the measures the government trying to put forward will improve our lot with regard to improvement of the economy and then make life better for everybody here. There's no doubt about that. If you look at the 7 point that the government listed, aggressive mobilization of revenue, which is in fact a positive point, that if you look at the targets compared against what they actually received, you realize that there was a shortfall, and that the government now want to strengthen the process of increasing revenue. That's a fine one. Streamline and rationalize expenditure. It's an important one, even though we have said it time and again that government must work towards, cutting expenditure, unnecessary ones. Government had been adamant, but thank God they come back to it, to do it. They boost local productive capacity. All right, that's a good thing, but is the government realizing this thing now? People have said it time and again that we need to support infant industry, build their capacity so that they can compete, and then help us to deal with things that we import, that we can produce them here. So if government have found a need to come back, fine. Promote and diversify export. This is the game changer. We need to be able to do a lot to export so as to have hard currency to manage our local situation. And this thing has been a talk show, not than more than the actual situation on the ground. So if government want to go there, fine. And then also to expand the digital infrastructure to reap the full benefit of it and all that. If you look at the other side of it, which is problematic, is the issue of e-levy. If you look at the e-levy, we said it time and again that look, there's nothing wrong levying a tax on people because you can never run anything without revenue. So reduce it. An expert was pointing to 0.5 to 1%. Government never listened to this. Government push that was so annoying. Government was not ready to listen to this. But today, they've come back after wasting everybody's time. What they forgot was that if you sign up to the concept of good governance, you always want to listen to stakeholders. And that was missing. I'm happy they've come back. And then they've seen the light. The issue of what cutting down government expenditure, that's a fine one, but the size of government, what are they talking about? If you have ministers over 80 and you still want to maintain them, I don't get it. The Constitution tells us that we can only maintain 19 for cabinet purposes. Why can't you reduce it to 19 and support the effort of those ministers with what? Directors, chief directors, and whatnot. It's a waste of everybody's time. Government must look at it and bring it back. And then the issue of what? You are looking for resources. We are in dire need of resources. And yet we have a policy that throw away resources. Look at the toll booth issue. It is conspicuously missing in the budget. One would have thought that they would have brought it forward.
Right.
All right. To introduce where is that? The little money that we get from that aspect of our economy. You don't want to what? You have thrown it away. I mean, it doesn't help anybody. Look at the issue of dealing with import.
Right.
That we are now going to strengthen the capacity of industries to be able to produce certain things that we consume here, rice and whatnot. My goodness, this people have said it time and again. Why was government wasting time? Let government know that the more time they waste, the disservice they do to themselves and this state, and their records will be there forever. The last point I want to touch on, the issue of no hampers, no this. When did government know this? All right. We waste time and resources printing calendars and all that. This is unnecessary. Sending people abroad because they are members of boards of SOUs and all that. Well, what I can say is that better late than never. But going forward, I will urge government to listen. Governance is nothing but dialogue, give and take. So if they want to take a certain position that they will not want to listen to it, then they are not in governance. They are in something else. And let us remember that governance is nothing but what contest of ideas and referendum of your work. At the end of the day, it's their work that will stand. If they are not able to leave any legacy, they will have their fingers bent when we come to 2024.
On the back page of the Daily Graphic, Koulibaly wins day for Senegal, making them the first African nation to qualify for the last 16. And that is their first last 16 appearance since 2002 when they shocked France in their opening in the match. Let's do a number of papers very quickly. I'll pick out, because most of them we have already digested in the Daily Graphic. Republic Press this morning says fire destroys over 20 shops at Kantamanto, and military officer in court over defilement and incest. So we'll focus on the Kantamanto story. The Daily Guide, I just want to do this one. Sacked PPA boss's trial begins. That story on page 3. And the trial of sacked Chief Executive Officer of Public Procurement Authority, Ajanim Boateng Ajay, and his brother-in-law, Francis Kweku Ahin, who are accused of using public office for profit yesterday, started before an Accra High Court, with the Office of the Special Prosecutor calling its first witness in the case. The OSP called Manasseh Azure Awene, a journalist, as its first prosecution witness, and he told the court that he had caused a witness statement to be filed on his behalf and intended to tender it in evidence. The third one would be from the Chronicle newspaper. It's something we've already looked at in a way. Ghana will be the loser if the minority rejects the budget. Abna Osei, Deputy Minister for Finance, says so. Quick reactions to these three stories?
Yeah, I will touch on the Ghana will be the loser if minority rejects the budget. I'm not sure minority will do that, because they also are in this country. They think and care for this country. So I'm not sure they will do that. But they have served notice that if there is something in the bill, in the budget, which doesn't augur well for development and for, sustenance of the lives of these people, of the people of this country, obviously they will kick against it. I believe that we are building a society, and that anything that doesn't augur well for us, we have to find a way of dealing with it. But I'm not sure that the minority will kick the budget out. No, it is in their own interest to support it. If there are aspects of it which are not in the best interest of us, point it out, and if need be, we expunge them. But I don't think that, no, at all.
What do you think of the Kantamanto issue? Year in, year out, same story.
It is a difficult situation that every time we come back to this problem, we talk about it. Committees, reports are made out of this, and implementation, we don't see anything about this. We need to, those who plan the cities and those who manage city life and all that, they must up their game.
Right.
We need to take the conversation a bit higher to include all stakeholders to find lasting solution to this problem, because they destroy nothing but life and property, which is a key ingredient in governance. Let us remember that governance is contract. That state protect me and my property and I'll obey you. So if every year people lose their property and all that, you create a problem and a situation that people begin to show lack of interest in the state affairs, and that create a problem because their properties are not protected. We need to do something meaningful about this.
Let's wrap with our last batch of stories, and then I'll wrap with the Daily Dispatch. So in that same paper, The Chronicle, apart from the Ghana will be the loser if minority rejects the budget, Dufour congratulates Black Stars, that is Dr. Kwabena Dufour. And again, quoting the NSS boss, that's your useless nursing that you do, he tells nurse at Manshia Government Hospital. Your useless nursing. If we didn't have nurses, only God knows. Anyway, so the Finder newspaper, Chief of Staff inspires women in energy sector to be shining examples. YEA secures job for 800 artisans to work with Ashaiman to Akosombo road contractor. There's also removal of e-levy threshold inappropriate. That's according to the IEA. And be part of budget debate, minority to Ofori Atta. I would have you react to the one about removing the threshold on the e-levy being inappropriate according to the IEA. But let me first bring in the Daily Dispatch headlines. Newmont, AngloGold and other mining giants agreed with Veep on the Gold for Crude initiative. That's according to the Bank of Ghana boss. But we also know that entities like the Chamber of Mines, Dr. Kone, among others, the community mining systems have said that there are so many gray areas that ought to be addressed. Apart from that, we can also look at government community mining created over 85,000 jobs in a year. And according to the UK's Harriet Thompson, over 70% of cocoa lands in Ghana will not be suitable again by 2050 if those are her thoughts. Let's wrap with those quick headlines. Doc, any reflections on them?
I'll look at the e-levy thing. The threshold is removed, and there are conversations around it. Some said it's going to help us, some say not. I want to look at it this way. If you maintain the threshold and you are saying that from 100 cities, people are going to pay 1 cedi as tax and all that, don't you also see a situation where people decide not to pay 100 but would send 90 just to avoid the payment of 1 cedi? I think that, I'm not an economist, but I think that you can allow this one to pass so that the amount you send, the tax is put on it and you pay, so that people do not avoid the payment of the tax. I know we are in difficult times, I have no doubt in my mind, but we can also not run any meaningful society without finance. And the government, as part of its capacity, extractive capacity, must generate resources. And one way that they can do that is through e-levy. They have worsened the situation, because when initially the conversation came up, experts were telling them that put it between 0.5 and 1. And by this time, you wouldn't have such opposition. But well, better late than never. Let's see how it goes. And I think that it's going to assist our society to generate enough revenue to run this country. There are other difficulties associated with other taxation. They must, if they can take a second look at them, it will help us so that this one will balance out.
All right. Thank you so much, Doc, for your time with us this morning. We're very grateful. Do you have any prediction for the Black Stars as they lock horns with Uruguay on Friday? Any predictions?
It's my hope and prayer that they win and win massively. We don't want that draw that we all sit on tenterhooks and all that. They should go in and then give them 1-0 or 2-1. Then we come home smiling. I have stopped watching soccer because the trauma that they put me through, I don't want to continue. But it's my national team. So I am with them with prayer. And I know that today we are going to stage a revenge, and then we leave something indelible on their minds. That what the glory they deny us, the last World Cup, we are here for, a revenge.
All right, and that will be Friday, actually. But thank you so much, Doc, for joining the conversation. Up next, we give you quite a dose of sports. Senegal did it for us yesterday. A few days ago, Morocco beat the second-place team in the world, Belgium, and we'll see how it pans out for us on Friday. But sports up next, Tuesday.
Good morning and warm welcome to Sports here on the AM show. Of course, the World Cup continues to dominate, given that we have 2 weeks more to complete that tournament. But hey, in Groups A and Group B yesterday, we got to see the 2 that make it out of each to the next round. And Senegal are through to the World Cup round of 16 for the second time in history after beating Ecuador 2-1 at the Khalifa International Stadium, set up as a winner-takes-all clash in Group A. Senegal went ahead through Ismail Assar's penalty and captain Kalidou Koulibaly's volley after Caicedo had leveled the scoreline. Solidarity with the African brothers, my colleague George Addo Jr. was at the Khalifa International Stadium to watch how the Senegalese made it out of the group and has this report.
Oh, yo, Senegal into the round of 16, and they're in the round of 16 for the knockout stage of the World Cup for the first time since 2002. They have had such a story, and they've been able to ride this wave and find themselves in the knockout stage. Remember, it didn't really start well. They played very well against the Netherlands, but lost by 2-0, then rallied back and beat Qatar by 3-1. Today, they had to win or would be knocked out of the competition, and they got that win by winning against Ecuador by 2-1. Now, the best thing for any Senegalese I've spoken to is the fact that Koulibaly scored his first goal like a striker, and the Senegalese I've spoken to are so excited about where this is going. You know what? They have actually proven why they are the African champions, and with the kind of power they have, even without Sadio Mane, we are not too sure where they can get to. They look like a side that can go all the way. It's been a fantastic one. I've enjoyed this so much, and we're looking forward to what Senegal can do and how many African countries can join them. George Addo Jr. from the Khalifa International Stadium. Senegal, give them away!
It was so amazing, a great atmosphere in a great stadium. We finally win with the good way, and we hope that we will qualify to the next round, to semi-finals, to quarter-finals also. Go Senegal, come on!
How difficult was it to watch the game?
The game was so difficult. In the first time we have a lot of opportunities to score, but Ecuadorian guys defend very well also. But hopefully we have a penalty kick, and after the penalty kick we play with less pressure, and this help us a lot.
That's right.
Yeah, that help us a lot in order to win.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Come on, Senegal.
That's right. You guys are doing.
Two guys here very speaking.
Now you pass the mic around. Now, first of all, tell me, how excited are you guys?
Like level 1 million, bro, right now.
Super excited.
Super happy, bro.
Like, lost our voices, just
it was like
shouting and crying at the same time.
Yeah, that was a bumpy road, but finally, we made it. We're going through, bro.
Just a quick one. How difficult was it to watch the game?
It was just like a roller coaster of emotion. Like we were like leading, then they came back. Everybody around me was just crying. We were thinking, okay, the game is finished. It will be like 2018. 4 years ago, we had the same issue. And 1 minute after, our captain scored this goal.
Yeah.
You were like amazing.
Somebody lost his voice though.
Who lost his voice? Come.
Look. Say something.
What happened to your voice?
Second goal. I don't speak.
Yeah. Speak your French. What happened to your voice?
I speak my French. Do you want to speak French? No, it's okay, I prefer French. Au deuxième but, j'ai pété mes cordes vocales. C'est pas plus compliqué. J'ai crié, j'étais trop content, et la voix elle est partie avec le but. Et voilà tout.
Up Senegal!
Senegal for life!
Of course, deserved of the African champions. Remember, Senegal won the last edition of the AFCON, and so a lot was expected from them. But elsewhere in Group A, in-form Cody Gakpo scored again as the Netherlands finished top, ending Carter's involvement at their home World Cup with a third consecutive defeat. And in Group B, England and United States of America have advanced to the knockout stages as well after victories over Wales and Iran, respectively. And so with these 4 from Group A and B, in the next round, you'll get to see who they are playing, as England will face Senegal, and the US will also be playing against the Netherlands. And so this is where you have it. So this is how it is going to be. England hosting Senegal, and the Netherlands host United States of America in the round of 16. We get to feel those ones as the competition goes on. And today we get to see Poland and Argentina fight for that next round slot, as Saudi Arabia also hosts Mexico. Australia will host Denmark, and Tunisia will also play France. Back home, the Black Stars will renew their rivalry with Uruguay 12 years after the dramatic quarterfinals encounter at the World Cup in South Africa. Forward Luis Suarez denied Ghana a place in the last 4 after handling a ball-bound strike from Dominic Edia. Samojan missed the resulting penalty, and the Black Stars ended up losing the game on penalties. Ghana's coach Otto Addo is confident the Black Stars can win the game, but insists there is no need for a revenge mentality.
Yeah, just like every other match, surely we want to win. The good thing is that at the end, if it's a draw, it's also good for us, but we want to win this game. I'm not too much thinking about revenge. For me, it's a normal game. Surely, I also was really sad 2010 when I watched the scene. And yeah, it was a big chance for Ghana to proceed to the next stage. But it's 12 years ago, and now it's a different match, a different approach also. So I don't see it, for me, it's not a revenge, and I'm not a person who's seeking for revenge. I'm a strong believer that if we don't seek for these revenges and all these things, sometimes we even get more blessings from God, and we try to do our best to win this match, and I think we are confident enough to know that we can beat them. Yeah, but just as everybody, as you know, I said it to the boys also, the way the players behave which didn't play is sometimes even more important, because they were singing from the beginning with the boys to bring energy into the camp. They were celebrating with the boys who played, and so for me it's not about a person, it's about a team. Surely for Andrew it's a little bit different because he was there. He watches with his own eyes what happened there. So for him I think it's even stronger feel in this match. But it's about the team, and I said it from the beginning. If we want to have a chance at this World Cup, it's teamwork. It's teamwork, and for this we need to connect. And this, I think, we showed that we have a lot of passion. That mentally we are very strong, and yeah, I want the guys to show it in the last game as well, in the last game of the group stage.
There's more sports news in our subsequent bulletins, but remember at 3 p.m. on radio, Joy 99.7, we'll get to bring you some of the games by commentary, and on TV, on Joy Prime, we get to watch that games also. And so just tune in and stick with us. My name is Abigail Sanasosu. Thank you for watching.
Welcome back on the AM show as we get into our big stories. Now, how do you feel driving long distances and having to contend with illegal and indiscriminate speed ramps? I've encountered some of those. Now, not only will it be frustrating, but also motorists are put in harm's way. So what's the way forward in dealing with the illegal speed ramps posing a threat to road safety? We'll be hearing from stakeholders, our guests this morning. Kwame Kodua Etiahene, he is head of communications at the National Road Safety Authority. We also have engineer Emmanuel Laye Odai, Greater Accra Regional Director of the Ghana Highways Authority, and also joining the conversation, engineer Abdullahi Mahama, a civil engineer. But we've been out and about. We've been looking at some of these illicit, illegal speed bumps or speed ramps on some of our major routes. This is what we put together.
We are putting up this speed ramp because anytime we have been observing an accident here. That is why we are putting up. Just 3 weeks ago, one of our father lost his life through this road accident. That's why we are putting up the speed ramp. So we are calling for the government to come and support us. Okay. If not, this our community, things are going bad.
There were 4 of such mounds on the same stretch. However, the downpour had washed away their efforts. But residents say they have a plan.
So our plan is that we are just contributing some small coins so that we can buy cement and other things, so that we can put up, we can get some cement and then we also make it in the proper way.
When asked how oncoming vehicles could be warned to take precaution, here's what Isaac said.
So the first thing we are doing, we just cut some leaves and then we put on the road so that any vehicle come in will know that there's something happening here, so that they reduce the speed and then that's the for now.
The situation here appears to be symptomatic of a bigger road safety concern, the conundrum of ramps. Whereas this is designed to control speed and save lives, motorists are concerned about how this tool is being deployed and its adverse effect on night driving.
And so that is the situation we have to grapple with. And I use, on my own route, I encounter some of these from time to time. What are the hazards they pose and what should we be looking forward to? How should they be regulated? We have all the right authorities to interact with this morning. But let me start with you, Engineer Mahama, on this beat. When it comes to these speed ramps that are, or speed humps that are all over major routes across our country, a lot of them illegal. What have you, from your experience, seen as far as that matter is concerned? Do you see these from time to time? How dangerous are they?
Well, let me say a good morning to my special guys on the line, and good morning to your cherished viewers. On a lighter note, when you are going to interview me and I have my mentor on the line, Engineer Emmanuel Adai, I'm uneasy. I feel uneasy because he's one of my bosses who has taken me through the mail over the years, for like 12 years now. So good morning, special greeting to Engineer Adai. I've come across a lot of these speed humps. Recently, I complained about the ones from Mankesim all the way to Takrady. I could count over 40 speed humps on the Mankesim stretch to Takrady. And I don't know how the supervision was done. A lot of them are so huge in size, very uncomfortable to even drive across them when you get to those locations. Sadly, most of them did not have the adequate warning or information signs prior to getting to the exact location. What happened is that I witnessed a lot of them had been damaged as a result of accidents. The information that you need before you get to the speed hump was missing. And so myself, I felt some of them when I actually came across them in some curves suddenly. So it was not comfortable at all. So what I think that the authorities may have to do is to put their men on the roads and then identify where we have this missing adequate information signs so that we will not be counting our losses at the end of the year, where a lot of vehicles will suddenly be confronted with these speed humps when they meet them on the road. And almost all the ones I counted, over 40 of them on this highway, there was no reflectors on them. Some of them were so harsh that it looked like the road itself. So even during the day, it was difficult to be able to identify or be able to identify that these are speed ramps and it's not part of the road carriageway. I mean, the main asphalt lane. And so it was not comfortable. I felt there was a lot of things that were not being done by authorities who are actually in charge of those. And you know, the Ghana Highways Authority has what we call the area managers. All the areas from the highways in Ghana, where an area manager's jurisdiction ends, the next area manager jurisdiction starts from there. So the whole stretch of the highways are within some hands. And if they are doing proper monitoring and evaluation, and they give adequate information to the higher officials, then maybe the only reason why we will not be seeing some of these adequate information signs on the road is because of funds. But that notwithstanding, I have proposed several times that whenever these vehicles knock down these road furnitures, most of the time the police would come and test the vehicles, and then after testing the vehicles, they clear the vehicles, and then the vehicles are taken away if they are not badly damaged to go and repair them.
Right.
But it is important that when these vehicles knock down public facilities such as these road furnitures, the police should not just end there. After testing the vehicles, they have to report to the right authorities who are in charge of this furniture so that the insurance will take its bits. Because we cannot allow vehicles to be damaging these hard-earned cash facilities which are put along the highway to help to reduce accidents. And when these things happen, the police do not go ahead to get these things resolved.
Okay, so thank you for your preliminary comments. Let me bring in Engineer Odai. You are with the Ghana, the Greater Accra Regional Highways Authority. I'd like to find out from you, first of all. I want to know from each one of you, do you encounter these illicit speed humps from time to time? Around where have you encountered them? I'll start with you, Engineer Odai.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you to the other listeners. All that I'm saying is that we, as Ghana Highway Authority,
No, Engineer Odai, before you get into that, I'd just like to find out from you. Have you personally encountered any of these that you know are illegal? Have you encountered them on any stretch? Because I encounter them all the time. In fact, right in Abilinkpe, from that turn before you get to the taxi rank way up ahead, there's one. When you use the turn towards Aquatech, there's another one that just sprang up. They just spring up anyhow. So I'd just like to know, do you encounter them from time to time?
Yes. Yes, and we have several of them. And that's why I wanted to talk about what we, as Ghana Highway Authority or the road sector, we are supposed to do. You know, we, as an agency, cannot do the enforcement. The enforcement has to come from the police. So all the, like we have rightly said, it is an illegal speed hump, or what you yes. So once we are using the word illegal, it means the enforcement must come in. We have several of them. At a point, when I was in Cape Coast, the regional commander told me that when I told him it's illegal, he was surprised to know that those ones that they've been doing are illegal. Why? Because he thought maybe if you want to construct the speed hump or the speed calming device, we bring in this, what do we call it, the soil, the gravel material or whatever material they want to use first, just to alert drivers that something is going to happen there. But we surprise, sometimes these things remain there time on end. Then I say, yes, that is very true. It's very, very illegal. And they are supposed to arrest the people, or even sometimes they have to touch the assemblyman. And once the assemblyman is touched, we know the people who did it, and they have to remove it, because it is not good for the road users. So it rather poses a lot of danger to road users than to, because of what we call the first timers. There are people who are using the road for the first time, and maybe you have a very good end, then suddenly you bump into this speed hump. So we have a lot scattered all over the country. It is not only in Accra. If you go to Bamboy, the Kintampo, it's all over the country. It's indiscriminately happening. So it's true. We see them all the time.
Now, you say they are everywhere, but, almost littering the length and breadth of our country. Just how dangerous are these ones? Because for me, as a driver, if you do not see these ahead of time, or if you use that stretch, but let's say a week ago, you knew there was no speed hump or ramp at a certain place, and all of a sudden you're coming at a certain speed, and you notice all of a sudden that they are there, it could be fatal, it could be dangerous. Just how dangerous are these situations?
It's very, very dangerous and then fatal. It can cause a lot of accidents. Like you rightly said, in the morning you pass through a road, in the evening you are passing, and then we have these things there. Normally, we have what we call the sight distance. It should be about 200 meters, not that is on the main road. If you have to see 200 meters. If it is not within that length, then it is dangerous. But what we are seeing is that it comes with signage. So if the people are doing this without the necessary signages, then what it means is that they are endangering the public. And that is why we are saying it is illegal. When we want to do it, we have to legally do it. We have different forms, like the speed humps, we have the speed tables. There are areas that we even have to narrow the road, or we put a gate there so that it will calm drivers. So it is very, very dangerous. And it is often, drivers are supposed to obey traffic signs. Basically, we have the triple E's that we talk about. That's education, enforcement, and engineering. For education, you see the road signs, and motorists, before you get your license, that's every driver, before you get your license, you must be able to identify road signs and be able to interpret what you see on the road, as far as education is concerned. And yet, what do we see? We see drivers speeding in towns. And I don't know, the measures that are put in place is not deterrent enough. So they continue to do it. Now the enforcement, we are supposed to have what do we call it? The cameras, the speed cameras, and then the red light cameras.
Right.
Which will record this, which will supposed to record this speed, the drivers speeding, and they can be punished for that. But what do we see? We don't have all these things around. When it comes to the engineering, yes, we have the ones that has been engineered. Those ones are okay. Because maybe we have a school, we have a hospital, some facility that we think people driving there will endanger them. So those ones are there. That's the engineering part.
I get the point you're making. Let me quickly come to Kwame Kodia-Etuahene, Head of Communications with the National Road Safety Authority. It gets interesting because, again, just one stretch on the top of my mind. When you go past, is it the Ghana Integrity Initiative, okay? And then you're heading towards Aquatic. When you take that left turn, there are 3 official ramps back to back, about 20 meters apart. Now, after those 3, when you get right into the bend, the curve, which is less than 100 meters from there. In fact, it is right in the curve. So if you are not careful, if you don't know that route well, because this just sprang up about 2 weeks or so ago, about 3 weeks ago, you would, just run over it and your tires, your shocks, anything could happen. Interestingly, after that one in the corner, less than 20 meters away, there's another official one. So you ask yourself, those who came and placed this there, what exactly the thinking is. For you, why is this illegality being perpetrated? But on the other hand, Mr. Etiahene, there are those communities where people tend to speed, whether with motorbikes or vehicles. In such instances, what do community members do? And if they have to apply legally for speed ramps to be placed there, how long will it take? What is the process to follow?
Well, thank you very much, and good morning to the viewers and the other panelists. I think that first of all, a point must be made that in areas where we have found the illegal speed ramps sprung up, in fact, in 9 or 8 out of 10 instances, it is often, you notice that it is an area...
I didn't quite catch that. You say 8 out of 10 is what?
I'm saying that in 8 out of 10 of such locations, the evidence would normally be that the inhabitants would have recorded a knockdown.
Right.
So it is often the case that they take, quote and unquote, they take the law into their own hands to resolve a risk that they live with. So even though we have posted speed limits and drivers qualified and licensed ought to know, even in the instances or in cases where the speed limits have not been posted, a driver ought to know that in an urban environment, you may not be able to do 50 or in some cases 30 or 20 kilometers. They overlook these best practices and regulations and speed. So it has always been the case, or mostly been the case, that when these communities take to a preemptive action, when you go back, it is often the case that they'll tell you that over the last week or 2 or 3 or over the last 1 month, we've had a number of knockdowns or near misses necessitating these actions. I mean, that said, it doesn't justify that. And to the question you asked, I mean, where you find the necessity for a speed ramp, the road infrastructure belongs to an agency. And I believe Engineer Odoy with the road agency, the road infrastructure, I mean, it is their property. And so if you find a need for an improvement, you need to use your local leadership, community leaders to make a request. And it will be assessed. And once it is assessed and considered necessary, I think there are cases where they act to provide the remedy. So that's where we are. And a little concern I may have is that, yes, even though these illegal speed ramps may be, illegal and require the police to act. With the greatest of respect, I think that the owners of the road, being the road agencies, cannot also look on. I mean, to say that without a complaint or an enforcement by the police, the agencies wouldn't do more, would also be problematic. So if I'm in charge of a road infrastructure, and it is obvious to me that some additions, of illegal activities is taking place. At the very least, you could also act by either lodging a complaint or Because without it, sometimes it's difficult when you interact with the police. Without it, sometimes it's difficult for the police to also discern which one is legal and illegal, and whether the said speed ramp has been sanctioned by the relevant local road representative or not. On our side, I think from last year, and I agree with you, and I wish to confirm, as other speakers have done, that, I mean, it's a common occurrence. We all use the road. We experience it. We live with these vices on a daily. It is very uncomfortable, and we experience the harsh reality that comes with it, especially on networks that are unusual. Run into a road network which is virtually new to you, and if you are not very diligent, you might run into some difficulties.
So it's interesting, all of these things you mentioned, but
so last year, I think year we brought this issue to the attention of the road agency, and under the leadership of the Minister of Roads, a team was put together to begin to take down the illegal speed ramps on our major highways.
Right.
So some work is being done, except to say that I'm unable to report on the status, how many have been taken down over the period and what's the plan for.
But you see, that tends to be the problem. Some work is being done, but we can't quantify the work. We don't know where these have been taken off. We don't know how many of them have been cleared. It makes appreciating the effort difficult.
So I would encourage that. I have just said there are quite a number of duty bearers.
Right.
And fortunately for us, the Ghana Highway Authority, urban roads, feeder roads are responsible for the road infrastructure. I've given you a hint of what is being done. I would respectfully encourage that maybe you draw them into the conversation so that they could give you the numbers.
Right. Let me come to Engineer Odai. You're with the Ghana Highways Authority. Pointed question. Now, you told me earlier that when they are legally put together, there are signs that are supposed to be there, whether blue or red. But from what we see, even with the legitimate ones, there often are no signages ahead of them. That is the first point to be made. And I get this message coming in from a viewer who says, in some instances, there are no red signs of a bump ahead. Why won't they use reflective paint on the sides of the bumps or ramps to make them visible at night? How do you address these two issues? Because I've gone by legitimate ones, no signages. And how do you find the second one as well? Maybe reflective gear somewhere to make them more visible? You would have to unmute, Engineer Odai. We're not getting anything you're saying.
Yeah. Thank you very much. It comes in so many forms. Sometimes it is under construction, and when it has come to completion, then before we take over, the contractor would have to put the signages before the contractor will be paid. Now, sometimes you see these concrete ones that you think it is legal, but it is equally illegal, because some residents or community decides on their own, and before you say jack, they have put it there. We can't be everywhere at every time. So you use a road maybe this week on a way, the next 2 weeks you come, there is one there. Sometimes we report this to the police, but getting the people to remove it then becomes an issue. We have a lot of problems that we encounter when it comes to these speed humps. Now we have this fisherman rope that they use everywhere. Some will nail iron rods onto the road, then eventually will create potholes on the road. Sometimes those who do the speed humps don't do it very well, and then you see potholes all over. So yes, there are some with reflectors, others without, some with the signages that we can see.
About how many of them have reflectors, so that at night, especially for people who aren't conversant with those routes, they can see that there's something ahead. Can you give me a percentage?
Well, we have the road safety section of Ghana Highway Authority. I don't have I'm not in the office right now. Otherwise, I would have just referred and give it to you. But the one that has been engineered comes with all these facilities. So basically, that's what I can tell you for now.
So, in other words, we don't have much data. You're suggesting that you have this data, all of it, but you're not in your office, and so you can't give it to us. Does that mean that if we reached out to you later, after the show, for example, you'd be able to give us all of that data concerning the stretches that have these signages, concerning those that have the reflective, systems or lighting at night and all of that? Can you confirm that for us?
Yeah, as far as the trunk roads are concerned, yes, we can, because usually we do the inventory every year on these facilities. So yes, we can do that.
Engineer Mahama, so here's an interesting bit. Even on newly constructed roads, we're seeing these happening. I just get some information, for example, that the Jasikan Dodo Pepesu Road, the ramps are black. They are very dark, and at night you'll run into them despite the the early signs that you see. So in other words, there are some signages, but some of them are so dark that you can't even see them. You see a sign that there should be something ahead of you, but before you realize, because they are not visible, you ran into them. And you know what that does for your car over time. How do we deal with this, digesting what Mr. Chiahene and Engineer Odai have said so far?
Well, some of the speed ramps are done with asphalt. Engineer Odai stated categorically clear that before you get to the exact location, there are adequate signages to alert you. So once those signages are missing, that is where you are confronted with such a problem. Now, when Etuahino was speaking, he made mention of the fact that sometimes you don't see, somebody gave you, I think, a text message or whatever, that you don't see these signages there. Like I told you before, when I started with my initial submission, I said, these signages are always installed when proper engineering is done. The Ghana Highway Authority has a whole safety division. Before a road is actually handed over to government, an inventory is taken about safety. And all the speed humps have adequate information signs. Now, I told you again that once these vehicles are involved in accident and they damage some of this road furniture, it's only proper that when the reporting is being done at the police, they need to capture these facilities that have been damaged, and then they report to the agencies so that the insurance bit will be taken into consideration.
Right.
But like Engineer Jordan was saying, if maybe you just used a road about a month ago and you have all the signages there, somebody just a first-time user, and he doesn't see, you see, before you get to the exact location, you spoke about the red signage and then the blue one. The red sign is telling you that you are approaching the location of the speed hump, and the blue one tells you that you are exactly at the location. Now, when you use some of these roads in Accra, some people have come there and they are putting a lot of other adverts. You see billboards, small signage for directions, actually impeding the vision of the actual speed furniture. And the assemblies also have to start working, because these adverts are not sanctioned or approved by the Ghana Highways Authority.
Right.
These permits go through the assembly, and they ensure that the signage are put at locations where it will be visible. However, if the assembly is not aware or the process has not been taken, and you see signages blocking the road furniture, automatically the assembly ought to do the needful and removing those signages from the said location, so that at least people would have a lot of vision. And some of these speed humps, with time, they were off. So no matter the reflector that actually placed on them, periodically, the Ghana Highways Authority or the urban roads have to come and then do what we call maybe their routine maintenance and then get them reflecting again. So that at least when you are driving in locations like this, you'll be able to have adequate information before you approach the speed ramp.
Right. I think it would also be good to give us some education on the different types, because there are the rumble strips, those that, yes, you would feel that rumble when you go over them. There are those that you can't go over like that. You have to necessarily slow down a lot more. So there are the street ramps or humps. There are the rumble strips and all of that. But I'm getting people, and this is something I can corroborate, I'm getting people send me messages that the strips have white paint, which are not reflective, not necessarily reflective, and that as for the rumble, the bumps, they don't have them at all. In fact, one of the videos we just played, you would see it there. It looks black, almost as though it were one with the road. Imagine what would happen at night. What are the differences and what should be done to better the situation?
Before I speak to that, you see, if we decide to listen to every community's complaint, then at a point in time, almost every 10 meters, there should be a speed ramp or a speed table. Motorists are supposed to ensure that there's a common sense. Any driver who has acquired a legal driving license ought to know where to speed and where not to speed, because every junction has a different parameter. Now, when you're on the Kumasi Road, for instance, at Tichamante, the community is just by the roadside. That's the highway, an express road. But almost every now and then, when we are there, we have to force drivers to slow down with all the information signs. 500 meters away, you are told that you are approaching a town. 200 meters away, you are told you are approaching a rumble strip. 100 meters away, you are given adequate information. But the vehicles still speed with the speed of light. So it's a two-way situation. Ghana Highways Safety Division is doing their bit. Drivers ought to do their bit. When the drivers actually decide to use the signages well, or in an event where we don't even have the signages and you are in a town and you are doing 80 kilometers per hour, something ought to be done right. Something is actually wrong with that driver. So now let's look at the types we have. The rumble strip, like we said, the ones you see them like those strips. The second one you see those ones around the Kaswa stretch to Bujumburam, the speed tables. Those ones are like 10 meters wide. In fact, one of the most comfortable ones I've seen, where you go on the speed table, you drive and then you come down. Okay, those ones are commonly seen on the highways. Now, with all this being done, the number of speed ramps or humps that we have on the highway or on our roads also aggravates the extent of deterioration of our roads. Because if you look at it, most of the time, at both approaches of the speed ramps, you see potholes developing. It's because of the sudden stoppages and going across it and then hitting the other side of the road with that weight. So in the proposal, I've seen that some of the speed ramps, the approaches are being done with rigid pavement, like maybe a 50-meter or 40-meter stretch of pavement blocks or concrete, so that at least when you are stationed there before you go across the speed ramps, will not be creating the potholes that we see on the road. But these are the basic things that you have to do. Right. Drivers ought to be responsible as well on our highways, because a lot of the highway that we have constructed, in the bad state, you don't encounter accidents.
Right.
The new one that we have adequate information, we encounter a lot of accidents. But let's ensure that, like I said, this issue about the police always being at the accident scene and reporting, taking notes of everything that has been damaged, should not just test the vehicles and allow the vehicles to go. That's why most vehicles are insured. Almost all vehicles are supposed to be insured, so that when they damage these facilities, the insurance will come and replace them with the advice or with the consultation of the Ghana Highway Authority.
So Engineer Mahama, I want each one of you to just get 30 seconds to deliver your final remarks, and we shall end this conversation. But I just felt compelled to put out this data. When you look at the IMF data, an IMF blog, it talks about speed bumps. And did you know The world's slowest roads are found in the poorest countries, presenting another obstacle to economic development. So they have a chart here. And if you look at mean speed ranges per kilometer hour, you would find that in the developed economies, North America, the US, Canada, and other places, they are looking at speeds per hour of 91 to 110 kilometers. In those that are slightly less developed, 76 to 90 and the rest. Do you know that in Africa, most of our countries, including Ghana, you are looking at 30 to 60 kilometers per hour? How does that strike you, and what are your final comments? I'll come back to you, Engineer Mahama. 30 seconds. The rest of you, 30 seconds, and it's a wrap.
Education and awareness. The drivers who are in the North Americas have a lot of information, or they have a lot of punitive measures when they actually get involved in some of these things. The cameras are missing in Ghana. We need to ensure that we have a lot of these cameras that some of your media houses have started war against indiscipline on our roads, so that we can get, it's just the indiscipline bit which is actually the problem. And then the first time user on any road has to make sure that he drives within a certain acceptable speed, that in case he is confronted with anything along the road, any obstacle, he can have adequate time to avert any accident on the highway.
Engineer Mahama, so grateful for your time. Let me hear from Kwame Etiahene. Your concluding thoughts in some 30 seconds.
I think I would like to reiterate the comments of Engineer Mahama. And a lot of issues could be resolved if drivers were patient to drive within the posted speed limits. That way, we could also calm the communities from deploying these unengineered illegal ramps. But on the other hand, I would also seize the opportunity to call on the road agencies to improve upon their monitoring and inspections regime and do the best they can to assist road users take down these ramps that are illegal and pose a measure of threat on the lives of road users.
Right. And for you, Engineer Odai, your parting comments. You may have to unmute for us, Engineer Odai. I do not know whether we've...
Yeah, thank you very much.
Right.
All I would say is that it's education, education, and education. If we don't educate the people, we can do whatever we want to do and we will not get results. We must educate the public, and then all the agencies, the police, our agencies, and then the stakeholders, we have to come together and know that life is precious, and therefore we have to protect it. So safety, before any engineer does any design, safety is paramount.
Right.
It's the first thing we consider. Yes, so we are saying education, education, education. Thank you very much.
Thank you too. Someone sent me a message at the last minute that none of you spoke about a lack of resources and human intervention, but that is a discussion for another day. Thank you so much, Engineer Abdullahi Mahama, civil engineer, together with Kwame Etiahene, head of communications at the National Road Safety Authority, also Engineer Emmanuel Laye Odai, Greater Accra Regional Director, Ghana Highways Authority. We're so grateful for your time, gentlemen. Thank you. Now, having had that conversation, there are two major issues we're going to be looking at together with other discussions we're having. Those over 5 million, as some would put it, over 9 million SIM cards that risk deactivation from tomorrow, as well as the other bit to do with the Ashanti Regional Head of the NSS. All of those discussions still ahead on the AM show. Do stay.
Good
morning to you. Thank you so much for staying on the AM show. I'm Bernice Abu-Baidoo Lansah. This morning, the National Service Secretariat is rolling out an initiative to train personnel under the teaching module. Why has it decided to do this, and what problem is there to solve? I've been joined by Osei Esibe Entry, Executive Director of the NSS, and Mr. Lawrence Sapong, who is also a top official there. We'll be talking briefly about that. But let me come to you, Mr. Esibe Entry, who is Executive Director of the NSS. Once we have you here, you know, with what's happening with your Ashanti Region NSS Director, we definitely need to touch on that before we zoom into the reason you're here proper. What exactly is the Secretary doing about this? There have been calls for his dismissal. Just tell us if that has come to your notice and what you're doing about it.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. In fact, yesterday we heard all what happened. It was rather unfortunate to hear such words coming out from the Director of the National Service Scheme. But later we heard that he has apologized, and we have also had opportunity of reading the apology from our Director for Ashanti Region. But yesterday, immediately the news started flashing across the media landscape. What we did immediately was to invite him. So yesterday I invited him to proceed to headquarters, where he came immediately for us to also listen to his side of the story. So even though he has apologized to the nurse, and we are not just allowing the apology to be enough. So he is going to appear before a committee of inquiry, which is going to be announced today. So he's definitely going to meet that committee of inquiry for us to know exactly what prompted him to do that. And after that, we will come out, we will take an appropriate action.
And so while this is happening, will he still be at post, or he's asked to step aside while you do these?
Well, like I said, in fact, he's been meeting management this morning. Okay. Yeah, because you cannot just come out with a committee of inquiry whilst you've not listened to him. Yesterday he proceeded, he came, but he came at a time that was outside the working hours. And as such, we've arranged that we are meeting him immediately after the interview. We are meeting him to listen to his side of the story, so as to be able to even have a good terms of reference for the committee that will be meeting to interrogate him further.
Right. So we can move on to why you are here. So the scheme is rolling out an initiative to train teachers. Why is it important, and what problem are you hoping to solve?
Well, you see, for national service is going to be 15 next year, and it tells you that for 49 good years, national service has been supported Ministry of Education, and to be specific, GS, Ghana Education Service. We normally rolled out and deploy a lot of sizable number to go and aid teaching and learning. So for the 49 years, we've been sending them there to go and support teaching and learning without having gone through pedagogic training, which we all know that is very essential. So the reason why national service is apt to do this task is to make sure that at least we work in conjunction with the NTC, that is the National Teaching Council, to be able to orient them. We all know that at least they have graduated, so meaning they have finished their tertiary education, but there's one thing acquiring the knowledge, and there's another thing having to know the methods in teaching. So we are just teaming up with them, collaborating with them to be able to prepare them adequately so that they can go out there and give their best. So all what we want to do is to enable NTC to be able to help us to prepare them before they go to the classroom. But that is not to say that all the numbers that we post out there haven't gotten the education. No. For instance, this year we are pushing out about 51,000 to support teaching and learning. Right. But out of that huge number, about 36,000 have gone through education. They have studied a lot about pedagogy. So with them, we don't have any problem at all because they know the methods of teaching. They know the methods of teaching. But what about those that we are pushing to senior high school? That is those who have special skill, like the sciences. Those who graduated from KNUST, having gone to study biology, having gone to study engineering, having gone to study architecture and all the others. So if you are also posting them to go and support teaching and learning at the senior high school, what do you do to them? So these are the areas where we are bringing in the regulators.
Which is the National Teaching Council. And thankfully, we have the Deputy Registrar here with us, Mr. Lawrence Sapple. So just tell us briefly what processes you're going to take these trainees through.
Yeah, NTC, National Teaching Council, we are mandated to professionalize teaching in the country. So just as we may not want to see unqualified personnel in medical field, in the legal field, we are also guiding against the intrusion of non-trained teachers into the teaching profession. And over the years, National Service has been supplying personnel to the education sector. Per our law, before one becomes a teacher, you have to go through the training.
Right.
So these personnel who are going to be deployed to schools, they are not going to take the position of teachers. They are going to provide support to teachers to do their work.
Okay.
And we feel that for them to provide the support needed, they must be given the needed competencies that will help them to do their work well. So we are providing them with pedagogy training that will help them to assist the teachers to carry out their day-to-day activities.
And so, I mean, let me come to you, Mr. Isibe. For this batch of students starting the National Service, they've already been posted, right? So is this training for them or for those who are likely to be posted next year? Just help us understand.
No, it's these numbers that have just been posted.
And how long will the training be?
The training is not going to, we are going to intersperse it.
Okay.
The first one is going to be about 2 weeks. So with the 2 weeks, that is going to be an orientation. We will orient them into the pedagogic background for them to really understand it better. But whilst there, then they will be doing some distance program along the line. Because we want to sharpen them. We want to let them know it's really involving. And we cannot just push them to one side to train them before we bring them, because we need their presence. Their presence needs to be felt.
Right, so this will happen in the various regions. How exactly is it going to happen, Mr. Sapong?
So for the first 2 weeks, we are deploying them to the universities that train teachers to give them proper orientation. After that 2 weeks, they will go to their stations, and that is where we engage them through online mode with these same facilitators.
And who's going to take up the cost for the training while they are in these universities? They're going to be posted to accommodation, food, and all that. Is that also the responsibility of the NSS?
Well, the NSS has a responsibility to pay. NSS will be paying the allowances, but at least it's going to be a shared responsibility between us, the NTC, and that of the Ministry of Education.
Okay.
We are still looking for partners from outside to come and support us.
Great.
Yes.
So, Mr. Sapong, will they receive certificates after this? What is the future for a person who serves as a teacher under the National Service Scheme and receives training from the NTC? What next can they do from there?
They are not teachers. And what we are giving them is orientation, not training as we do for teachers. The law says that before one is allowed to go to classroom, that person must be given authorization in the form of provisional certification. So we give them a permit that will allow them to go to the classroom. And the permit expires after 1 year. So after 1 year, if they want to take teaching as a profession, then they'll have to go through the due process to professionalize themselves as teachers.
So there's something happening at the Nat Hall today. Can you just share more details with us?
Well, what is happening at the Nat Hall today is the launching of the program, because I'm expecting the Minister of Education to be there. I'm expecting the Chief of Staff of the Republic of Ghana to be there. Then the NTC and NSS, we are also going to be there with some of the invited personalities. All what is going to happen there is to open out for the public to know that this time there's going to be a change, and the change is that we want to orient them. We want to get the best out of them. That is why we are trying to let the public know, so that by extension, where they are going to be posted, we also know that even if the national service that have been posted to your institution is asking for 2 weeks, it's for the betterment of all. So you have to allow that person to go and get the orientation before the person come back to fill the gap.
Right. And so, Mr. Sapong, you mentioned that these personnel are not going to be engaged in real teaching, but we know what it is like in some parts of the country. They may end up teaching, but that's not the point I want to make here. What exactly are they going to be doing? You said they will be assisting the teachers, but in practical terms, what exactly will they be doing?
The teachers are in the classroom teaching. They will give exercises. There may be some instance where the teachers have to go for meetings. The class can never be empty. So in that case, the teacher will give assignment or exercise to the learners. The service personnel will ensure that the learners do what is expected of them.
Okay.
And then collate all the books and keep them for the teacher.
So what kind of training are you going to give them then? What exactly are you going to take them through?
Yeah, in teaching, the knowledge about the learner is very, very critical.
Right.
They need to understand the characteristics of the learners that they are going to interact with. The knowledge of the school environment, even the community where they are going to work, they need to have orientation about that so that they can easily mingle with the people in the community. So we want to give them that orientation so that they will not be strangers in the environment where they are going to work. And when the learners are also doing something that goes against their beliefs, they will understand the individual differences that exist within the school environment.
That's fantastic. So final words to you, Executive Director of the NSS, as we launch this program later today. What is the aspiration, what is the hope of this initiative?
Well, first of all, I'm sure it's going to help the national service personnel. It's going to actually make them to be astute. It's going to prepare them very well. Because if you know what you are going to have, a lot of knowledge about what you are going to do, it actually positions you well. And then it's also going to introduce them into what pedagogy is all about. I'm sure by the time that a lot of them are finished with this year national service, some may even be wanting to become professional teachers. And those who want to become professional teachers, the gateway will be there for them. And who knows that once they are being introduced into pedagogy, a lot of them can even take up to the distance program that is being run by Winneba and others to become professionals in the future. There is not only this area where national service is going, but the national service is doing a lot of orientation, especially even those that are going into the area of tourism. The national service is having a program being run with tourism, and we are doing it with the Ministry of Tourism and Culture, Arts and Culture. Those ones are also going to be oriented. And apart from that, we also have another model in the area of housing, because I'm sure you haven't visited our office. You have to find time and come and visit our office, and you will see the work that has been done by the national service personnel, the office unit that they themselves have built. So that unit are also going to be oriented. All those that are going, especially the new models that we have rather introduced, and the old ones that we are reinvigorating, all of them are going to be given a lot of orientation to actually bring the best out of them. We are now in the fourth industrial revolutionary world where ICT is key. So even though they've acquired knowledge, they need to acquire skill. So when they acquire the additional skill, that is going to make them employable when they are done with their national service. So this is the area where we are going.
Right, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Osei Entry is Executive Director of the NSS, and we've also been speaking to Lauren Sapong, who is Deputy Registrar at the National Teaching Council, and we've been talking about an initiative to train national service personnel under the teaching module so that you don't have strangers in the classroom and you always know that they are being professional in whatever they do. Well, quickly, we'll take a quick breather. When we come back, we'll be telling you all you need to know about benchmark values to stay. Grateful that you could stay with us this morning. We are here to talk about benchmark values. I'm sure you've heard that a lot, especially in conversations with GUTA members and all, and their concerns about that. But we're not going into that today. We just want to help you understand what benchmark values are all about. I've been joined this morning by Principal Revenue Officer at the GRA's Customs Division, Bilson Jadab Atagba. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Good morning. First things first. Okay, we keep hearing benchmark values. What is the basic aim of this particular valuation agreement?
This valuation agreement, good morning once again, and good morning to our cherished viewers. The benchmark value is actually the agreement. You're talking of valuation agreements. Actually emanates from WCO or WTO, that's World Trade Organization, which talks of the processes that are involved in our valuation process. We are actually guided by this agreement to ensure fairness, uniformity, and neutrality among the trading public in the application of the rules, regulations, and laws, standards that govern valuation in all member countries of WTO. So in actual fact, we do that to sanitize the valuation system so that nobody does anything different from the other. We follow similar rules, regulations. So in effect, the WTO agreement is actually to ensure that some fairness, uniformity, and neutrality prevails in the trading community in the application of all these things.
Until recently, we were not hearing the benchmark value. So people are wondering what exactly it is and how does it work in practical terms. If I have goods and I bring them to the port, what exactly happens with the introduction of these benchmark values?
Benchmark value has actually been construed by the trading public, and especially some of you, the media personnel, like your presenters and the panelists presented some issues on benchmark this morning, that benchmark is supposed to be applicable to some selected or products, that is the discounts. They were talking about the discounts. But benchmark actually is a yardstick, it's a test value, it's kind of a guidance to test the reasonability of a value that has been declared by an importer. So you first of all have it as a list that has been compiled by a unit called the Risk Management Unit, which goes into all declarations to find out whether goods that have been declared and even cleared have declared the right value. By the right value, I mean the primary valuation method, which is the method 1 of WTO, which ensures that all goods declared must be the price paid or actually paid when imported into a country having been sold from the country of export and adjusted by Article 8 of the WTO. So in effect, that unit goes into the risk factors by using some of the risk indicators to find out the challenges, the undervaluations, the overvaluations, the misdescriptions, the misclassifications of all those declarations to find out who is deviating from the actual value that is supposed to be declared. So by that, we try to do that to bring the compliant, the non-compliant people to the level of the compliant people.
Most of the time when we hear the term being used, it's in the negative sense. But what are the benefits of benchmark values to the trading community and the customs administration?
Yes, it also has its positive issue. You know, the risk is, like I said, it is derived from the risk management unit. It's actually an impact on or upon the objective of any company or goal that one has set up. So, but mostly the risk is always associated with the negative impact. Now, the benefits to the trader is that, you know, locally, we want to encourage production of industries. Production, local production, government wants to encourage that. We have some tariff bans in the area of 35%. Those tariff bans are very difficult to import because of their high cost and the high duty that are payable. So some of these products, like water and the rest that are supposed can be produced here, will have to be encouraged. So that benefit of encouraging the local production of those items makes it so that you have to bring some fairness, uniformity to that trading public so that nobody will import it lower than they are producing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then another one is to help facilitate trade for the trading public. Once it is used in alignment with what we have, there's no competitor who will come and complain about somebody, that somebody's his value is being accepted and somebody's own is being assessed high. So we put them in the same line so that at least they can all be in a fair playing field to be able to compete favorably.
So what's the difference between the transactional price database, national valuation database, and the benchmark values or reference price?
Yes. In fact, they all mean the same thing. The benchmark value, so-called by people, which we are now referring to as the reference price list. In fact, I will urge JoyNews, Joy FM not to mention that word benchmark again. Mention reference price list because it's been misconstrued. So we will have it as a reference price list, which is an internal, an in-house built mechanism to just regulate our own system, to sanitize our own database. So that database, national database, reference price list, they are the same. Let me start from the database. The database is what we have as transaction price database that we have in our system. For instance, if you import something, your value will be in the system. If the other man to import anything, his value will also go into the system. So all those gathered data are there as our price reference list. So it is there. Then government or the authority by section 3 subsection 5 can also employ or get an assistance from a consultant to also build a database for us. That is what is called the National Data Valuation Database. Then the price reference list, the reference price list is what I mentioned, that we built from the risk unit that are having collated some risk profiles on importers, exporters, and other indicators that determine that those values are inaccurate. They are way, way below or way, way above what should have been declared.
Right. So, please continue.
Because WCO is ensuring that at least we accept everybody's value. That is the primary evaluation method, method 1. So if everybody should be declaring the right value, we will not go this way. But in any case, we are using it to guide ourselves to ensure that everybody is in line.
So in other words, we're using the bench, well, you said we shouldn't say reference price list because there are people who are not putting the right value on the goods that they bring into the country. And so it's made it necessary for us to refer. So how do you determine, for example, if I'm an importer and I bring water or I bring an item to the port and I say, well, this is the value of it. How do you go through your reference price list and determine that I may be undervaluing my product?
You know, like I said, you are not the only competitor. You are not the only trader importing those goods. Somebody else would have imported from those same companies, same country, the same time, the same quantity, the same commercial level. They are all in there. Once you imported, all those things will be in our system. So when you come, we'll use different ways of trying to identify the risks. After identification of that risk, we'll analyze the risks. After analyzing that risk, we evaluate the risks. In evaluation, you see the deviation. Whether they are way, way deviated, that is why we give the 3 types of interventions, which are the green lane, the yellow lane, the red lane, and the blue lane. By the green lane, it means everything is right, you are perfect, you can just go away without examination. The yellow lane means that your document will be verified, just the document, no physical examination. It means somehow we are satisfied with your declaration, so we allow you. But the red, which falls in the category of most certain likelihood or consequence of occurrence, it means that you are at risk. What you are declaring is not true. So by that, we need to do document verification and physical examination to reconcile your declaration. But the blue, which is the 4th one, means that you can be released. But having been released, you are still not free. Post-clearance units can take on your declarations and go into your records, come to your shop or come to your premises to inspect your books to ensure that what you have declared, having also done some research or investigations on your declarations. So by that, they will be able to get whether what you've declared is right. If it's not right, then that is also another source of gathering our information. So whatever corrections that has been done at the post-clearance unit, that is after clearance, we gather all those things to compile our reference price list.
Right. So as it stands now, this reference price list is still being put together because there are still people bringing in new items every day from different sources every day.
Exactly.
So you continue to build the database.
Yes, we continue to build it. The WTO requires of every member nation to at least within 90 days to review their database. In fact, WTO Secretariat goes into our database by researching, because a country like Togo, a country like Cote d'Ivoire can make a complaint against Ghana that some goods are passing into Ghana before being re-exported into Togo, into Cote d'Ivoire. Why? Is it because they are declaring something is happening there? So they can use all those things to check the valuation process and the challenges involved as per the risk factor.
But that's a very interesting one, because talking about, so this is also to help countries check some of these issues, because there are concerns that sometimes products are shipped through other countries. I don't want to mention names, through neighboring countries, because their import duties are cheaper, and then people smuggle them into Ghana. Then they can sell it cheaper than the person who imported it directly.
Exactly.
So are you saying this will also help check it from that angle as well?
Yes, it's to also help to check it from that angle. In fact, all member countries can make those complaints. Once your government is losing revenue, they can check all those things. That is what we call canalization and concentration, where government will be forced to make some particular goods that are being smuggled to pass through a particular point, so that at least they can be monitored and controlled. So when it happens that way, government will have to come in. You know, government is a representative of the country at WTO, and customs is the representative of the authority at WCO. So they all work together. In fact, they have a technical committee on customs valuation that deals with all these challenges. And it's an ongoing process. Review is allowed. That is why when the reference price list has come by the operations of the risk management framework, we are allowed to review even in the course of the implementation of the reference price list, because we have challenges. We have complaints from competitors. We have people who try to come with genuine invoices, and the rest now to actually debate us on the values we have produced. So by that, if we are, risk management is able to go through to authenticate the veracity of those invoices, then we are forced to review those values.
Right. So what would you encourage the public to do? Importers, I mean, seeing that we've made this introduction, like I said, there have been concerns. We've heard from Guta as well. They complain bitterly about these benchmark values and how they affect their pricing in the long run. So what's your general message to the public and the business community?
My general message to the public is that we are guided by laws. We are guided by rules, standards of the WTO. Article 17, Section 3 of our Act, that is Customs Act 2015, Act 891, empowers us to do some of these things. Internal administrative mechanisms are also allowed by us to use to regulate. It is the same people who will come and complain if somebody is not paying the right duty. So we are just helping them to actually be in business, so that A will not bring something at $1 and another one $5, and will not check why that difference.
Right.
So how will you be in business? You cannot be in business. And the fact that their record keeping is poor, we cannot accept everybody from going out for post-clearance unit, which is not fully tooled, or there are not many to cover the whole a nation, to be able to go into their books to actually see what other than that would have released everything from the port. Then we'll go to post-clearance, then they will take it up. But that is a lot. In terms of cost and benefit analysis, it will be very expensive. And aside that, we want to avoid 100% examination of goods. We are not happy.
Physical
examination. We are not happy.
Too stressful.
Too stressful. The staffs are not many to be doing that 100% examination. So we try to take the high-risk goods from the low-risk goods. So the low-risk goods are facilitated through clearance. So by that, they save costs when it comes to the clearance process. By the high risk, we concentrate on the high risk. And don't forget, the same competitors come to report other competitors in the business that something is going wrong. And we have feedback from the port as to deviations when it comes to examination, the shop collections, the offenses that happen in the port. We get all those feedback to try to use them as risk indicators to arrive as products so that we can align those valuations in those areas.
I appreciate the time here this morning.
Thank you.
This is Principal Revenue Officer, GRA Customs Division, Bilson Jadab Atagba, and we've been talking about benchmark values. He's encouraging us to use reference price list instead. He says that we've abused the term, so hence the education we've received this morning. Thank you once again for joining us on the AM show. Right, you're watching the show. We'll be back with more. Do stay.